Let me go to Kenny Deery, who joins me on the line, Chief Executive of the Chamber, who joins me online today. Kenny, good morning to you.
Morning, Keith. How are you?
I know we're talking to you nearly twice a week at this stage, but it's important because we need to figure out how we get business kick-started again.
Absolutely, and there's been many wide-ranging conversations over the last day or two, Keith. We've had 3 calls, 2 yesterday and 1 at 8 this morning, with a mixture of retailers and hoteliers so far. I have another at 1 with more hoteliers, and these are the first of 15 calls over the next 7 days across a whole range of different sectors.
What's the feeling like out there, Kenny?
The feeling is a huge amount of concern and worry. I think the shock has been taken out of it at this stage, but many, certainly in the retail space, and we've closed out a lot of engagement now with retail, and the sentiment is try and get through this year if we can. We're not sure when they're going to begin reopening, particularly those not classified as essential. If restrictions were lifted in the morning, there's uncertainty whether they will be able to open. It depends on whether the COVID wage support is going to still be in place. It depends on a number of factors, particularly rates and VAT have people quite animated as well. But I think certainly if you're looking at Galway, and Galway City and County both typically enjoy a great boost from tourist numbers. And the tourism market, particularly the international tourism market, unfortunately, Keith, is gone for the next couple of months. And some are hanging their hat hoping that October, November, December bookings might hold up and the impact that will have on retail. But realistically, the concern and the conversations at this stage are about trying to do the best they can to open in an optimised way to survive and get through this year, with the view that there will be a brighter future next year. But it's certainly it's one of huge concern, fear, and a lot of uncertainty. Yes, the extensions and the supports that are in place are good, but we need more clarity now in terms of where they're going. And I think the big piece, looking at the retailers, social distancing is the new buzzwords, and they're each looking at their own properties and premises in terms of trying to figure out, well, if we were to open in the morning, how could we manage it? And it's a note to the point that you referenced around Dublin, and I know our colleagues in Cork as well, and we've begun the conversation here. How can we stagger entrance to buildings? Let's say if we look at Shop Street as an example, there is a need of some sort of canapes or some sort of canopy, or some sort of a mini market.
We'll take canapes as well if we got them.
We'll tell them, I tell you, I enjoy some of them myself. But some sort of protected entrance, particularly, our weather, not always sunshine like we've had in the last couple of days, so that businesses will be able to allow a phased number of people into their premises on occasion and stagger the rest outside. Equally, the restaurants, a return to normal. If we look at what's happening in Spain, restaurants are reopening, but on a 30% or a 1/3 capacity of what they would have been allowed in the past. So people are going to need to totally reimagine how their space is being used and seek supports to try and do that. And that's the purpose of this forum in Chamber, Keith. We'll have a report in draft this evening from the retail sector in Galway in terms of the steps they'll need to take and the support they need to try and deliver on those. And the job of us then is to lobby and work over the next week to 2 weeks with everything from Debbie, the Department of Business and Innovation, to the local authorities. And actually a lot of the challenges are local in terms of what we can try and solution ourselves here in Galway.
Now, Noel Greeler said earlier on the last thing that he wants, and you were on another Zoom call so you wouldn't have heard it, the last thing he wants is Shop Street to be full of empty business premises and businesses that went out of business and will not reopen.
Yeah, no, and I think many would share those sentiments. And I believe what we need now, one part of the conversation this morning was, well, we need to do this, and another contribution will know that will be against planning and that will be against fire regulations. And I think that there are some tough conversations to be had, Keith, in terms of trying to strike the balance between that survival that we need and to support people on surviving and to increase the footfall into our businesses again and move back from the online. But that has to be balanced with a bit of a relaxing somehow in planning, regulations, insurance liabilities, this whole thing about listed buildings. So in one way you could take a very simple, straightforward approach and say, listen, we're allowing things to roll naturally. But there are liability issues as well. So I think there's going to be some complex conversations, and they need to happen sooner rather than later. Like if we're looking at the results of the most recent survey, which have launched this morning with Chambers Ireland, we had 128 businesses in Galway, again, Galway City and County, respond. And the key thing is over 3/5 of those businesses expect income to fall by at least a half, if not more.
Yeah.
They can't continue to remain open without having the last thing you want is putting, let's say, if you're a cafe or a restaurant, putting 3 or 4 tables outside in as meaningful and safe a way as you can, and then being blitzed with letters from planning, fire safety regulations within a couple of days. So I think that balance has to be struck in some sort of positive negotiations now.
There's 2 words, Kenny Deery of Galway Chamber of Commerce, that have kept coming up for the last 7 weeks, and they're called common sense.
Correct.
So a little bit of common sense, and perhaps we went too far in the past with regulation. And I'm not saying that we flout the law and we pull a caravan down Shop Street and start selling coffee out of it. I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about a little bit of common sense. And in fairness, there's common sense in Brendan McGrath and his team there, but a little bit of common sense when it comes to restarting Galway. And I know we're talking about restarting Ireland many years ago, but we're talking about restarting Ireland all over again and restarting Galway City and County and every other village the length and breadth of the country. Absolutely, and I think we've, how would I put it, there's an opportunity for Galway in this. We know the international market is a huge struggle. So there's 2 parts. We have to try and figure out for the towns around County Galway and the Galway City how we get customers to give them the confidence to come back into our town centres and our city centre, but equally in the domestic market around Ireland, how we can make Galway an attractive location for those up in Dublin to come 2.5 hours down the motorway and enjoy here. And I think a big part of which I was really, really positive and reassured on with the retail discussions was part of it is about cutting costs and getting support, but we also need to reinvent ourselves and really drive this brand that is Galway and make it as attractive as possible a place to get as much as we can out of this year. But 50% this year on what was projected would be a good outing. Many businesses have tough conversations to have, but that common sense is needed. We've been engaging a lot of our local elected officials, Keith, and I think over the next few weeks that engagement will be more critical than ever to deliver what we need to try and keep doors open. And that's what it's going to be about, really. I do think that there's going to have to be some kind of an initiative. I know it's currently running in relation to parking in the city centre and parking charges in the city centre, which is amongst, I'm not just saying city council, I'm talking about car parks, which is amongst the most expensive in the country. So there's going to have to be some kind of an initiative put in place to get people into town and incentives for them. Absolutely, and I think there were many minds between yesterday and today who are willing to come towards that. I think it's framing it with the city and the county council as well, and to be fair, both Kevin and Brendan are aware of the process that's underway and have committed to supporting us in what way they can. Clearly the devil will be in the detail. We are producing reports sector by sector. We'll have issues that can be solved locally within the local authorities, and we won't be found wanting in terms of trying to get those sorted out. The big one is rates is one that's on the top of everyone's list, and I think that's at a national level. We need movement from the Department of Planning, Housing and Local Government in terms of supporting the local authorities to give the rates deferral and clearance, not deferral is the wrong word, the rates cancellation that's needed. So there's a balance to be struck there as well. I think there'll be many pots borrowing Peter to pay Paul over the next while, but listen with common sense and hopefully good conversations will make great headway. Somebody said there's a Shop Limerick initiative. Why don't we have a Shop Galway?
There's a Shop Limerick initiative. It's supported by the local authority in Limerick, and a lot of retailers got together. In Galway at the moment, there's 2 pieces running. What we have and what you've supported yourself, Keith, is the Porter Shed Open for Business initiative, and I know the next phase of that is coming live, and City Council are supporting that too. It's along similar lines. Limerick got out of the blocks a couple of days earlier than ourselves on it, but I know certainly in Chamber and with the retail conversation this morning, there will be the same here. And as I say, it's about bringing the right people around the table, and team in Portershed, supported by ourselves and City Council, will hopefully have something along similar lines, Keith, that we'll be able to talk about in the next few days.
Absolutely, we must get Mary on tomorrow morning. That now, Mr. Deery, altogether, can I ask you one final question? Phone a friend, 50-50. What's the one thing you're looking forward to doing when all of this is over?
Going out for dinner.
Are you fed up cooking in?
I'm fed up cooking in, going out to one of the many fine eateries we have around the city, and indeed out towards the Connemara area, and just going out for dinner and enjoying the simple things that we used to be able to do. That lovely atmosphere around the city, particularly after work on a Thursday evening, having a bite of food and a glass of vino or two around town. I think that's my objective, anyways.
Somebody said yesterday, I thought, and I actually copied it down, I have it upstairs, is we didn't understand the freedom we had until such time as we don't have it anymore. And the one thing that the man in question is missing is his freedom. Yeah,
absolutely.
We've all asked that.
And it's been a new experience for many of us. I'd like to clarify, Keith, in case my personal trainer is listening, the most important thing I'd like to do is go to the gym, clearly, after this. I'm just thinking, in retrospect, I put forward the wrong answer.
Who is your personal trainer?
Sean McClafferty there in Push Gym in off Ayr Square, and I'll probably get a text after a while saying that was the wrong answer.
Well, I asked you, did you want to phone a friend? I gave you 50-50, Kenny. I mean, I can't do much more than this, you know. Listen, thanks for joining us today, and keep up the wonderful work that you and the executive are doing within the chamber, and your chamber president and members as well.